8:25 and returning to regular session of the special meeting. And we're on item 2, consider and take appropriate action regarding the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project and related items. Before we do a motion of any sort, we're going to have discussion. So does anyone have any discussion on this item? No one has any discussion?
I would just say, I think based on the comments and the concerns raised by our staff as well as our engineering firm, we appear to have a pretty consistent issue with work being done that does not meet specifications, and constant and considerable pushback and cost overruns through oversight for managing a project that because things are not being done according to specifications. And I think it's the board's recommendation that the project manager be removed from this project and be replaced.
Okay. Before we go further, do we have representatives in the audience? Or I know we have Kubota here, correct? Is someone here from Kubota? Okay. Do you mind answering a question about the equipment and the warranty issue on it? Can you come up to the podium? Can you come up here? Can you state your name?
My name is Shingo Kubo from Kubota.
Okay.
I inspected the membrane units last Friday, and then I confirmed there were no major damage on the membranes, and then the warranty will stay the same as we proposed.
And that's 10 years?
Yeah, that's 10 years.
So 10 years from the date that the equipment is
in
accepted
operation
by us, the warranty will extend from that
yeah.
time period.
Mm-hmm.
In
Yep.
operation, when it's in operation.
Once in operation.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a question. You said no major damage.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see any damage?
Yeah, we checked the interior of the membrane unit and the exterior of the membrane unit. And then what's important is the interior of the membrane unit, where we have membrane surface to get the clean water. And there was no damage on the surface of the membrane sheet, but there was a little bit dust out exterior of the membrane unit, which can be easily removed.
Shingo, I can't hear very well. Can you speak up a little bit, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
So the membrane surface is very good condition, no damage, and the exterior of the membrane cassette has some dust on it, but we can easily clean and remove, and which will not affect the warranty.
Okay.
Okay, and the repairs that were made, there's no concern of anything breaking off or flaking off?
No,
Okay.
no. Just there was a little bit concrete pieces that came off into the tank during the rubbing work on the concrete walls. That concrete pieces are very sharp that can destroy membranes. That's what the contractor and myself is working on to clean the membrane tank, membrane tanks, and the process tanks entirely to remove that sharp concrete pieces to protect the membranes.
Okay.
You wrote us a letter concerning the continuation of the 10-year warranty.
No, I don't have any
Oh,
concern.
who did write that? Keep it. Oh, comments. And I thought it was in writing. Was it not in writing? Pardon?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were wondering if you'd be able to reword that because we thought it wasn't entirely clear. Could you suggest keeping what you suggested to us?
This is what he was talking about.
So I should speak out the...
What was the wording?
I think what he would like to do is for you to rewrite that to basically say that the warranty will still be, the 10-year warranty is still in effect.
Yes, and
Basically what you just said here.
Yeah, that the warranty will extend from the time the plant,
Substantial completion.
And
yeah,
10 years.
substantial, for 10 years.
okay.
and-
So I will create a letter and then send to
Yeah. And, yeah,
Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay.
just send it to Kevin and stuff. Just send a letter to Kevin.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I will.
And then you were mentioning the sharp pieces of concrete. Are you going to come back and assure that all those pieces of, it's clean enough?
It's ongoing process. Today I checked one tank. It's completely cleaned.
Right.
And tomorrow I will be checking the other tanks.
Okay.
Then I need to confirm that. Absolutely.
And then the filters and the membrane where it has the dust, they're being cleaned at the same time?
Yes, the dust was on the exterior of the membrane
Okay.
cassette. That will be cleaned out.
Okay,
Kevin, I have a question for him.
go ahead.
I have some sincere concerns over equipment having been installed over the objection of our engineers before the concrete was finished out properly according to the specs within the bid. Now, that concrete's going to have to be cleaned with your equipment in place. Is there any chance of damage being done to the membranes between now and that time? In other words, will you be coming back after the concrete's cleaned properly and inspecting again?
He said that he's
He's
inspected
inspecting
one.
today and tomorrow, but I want to know, they're cleaning the concrete, Kevin, when it's cleaned, is he going to come back again to make sure that they're okay?
From what you said, you were inspecting them after they cleaned them, correct? You did one that's completely clean now, right?
I inspected last week. Yes, I did.
Okay, so one of them is done, clean? All the concrete chips are cleaned up?
After concrete work is done, yeah.
So one is done, and you're going to inspect the other ones?
No, I just picked only one membrane unit to check, and because disassembling is required to inspect the inside membrane cassette. So I just picked one to see that cassette is good, membrane surface is a good condition or not, and it was totally fine.
Okay, so I guess back to what Director Thomas was asking, are you going to inspect the other ones too, as they get cleaned?
We recommend to to do seeding soon. So I think inspection onto one cassette is enough for now. And we will keep the warranty the same as we proposed. So if anything happen to membranes, Kubota will come back to the site and then do further investigation to the membrane unit.
I would feel much more comfortable if that second unit was inspected before it goes operational, because if there's a problem after it goes operational, we got to shut it down for you to come in and inspect.
We don't have to shut down the plant. Membrane cassette can be pulled out the tank while operation is going on. So we do not have to shut down whole plant. We just
Let me say it a different way then. Based upon the issues you found with your first test in the first basin, I would like for the second basin to also be inspected at the appropriate time.
Well, there's more than just two. I mean, it's ongoing.
I'm not willing to accept the whole plant based on the inspection of one basin.
Okay. Yeah, we inspected the one basin now, and then we can certainly inspect the other one the other tank.
Thank you.
Yes.
Jim Hayes, do you have anything?
No.
Greg, do you have anything else?
No.
Bill?
I want to say that from the review that I've heard and ongoing consideration or concerns expressed about the quality or timeliness of the progress.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah. Do you want to come up? You're with Pepper Lawson, correct? Yeah.
My name is Benny Fretwell. I'm a senior vice president with Pepper Lawson.
Okay, could you just give a summary where Pepper Lawson is? Like, there's Weber Cadagua, and then Weber purchased you, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And we've assumed responsibility for these projects in North Texas that were under the Cadagua or Weber name, or both.
So all employees, including our project manager, report to you?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, they report to Jack German, who reports to me.
Okay.
And what's your title, Jack?
I am a North Texas area manager.
Okay. And you live nearby?
I live in Argyle.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm just curious as to some specifics that we installed membranes without plant or structure acceptance. I don't find that, a lot of the things you've said, I don't find to be accurate according to the paperwork timelines. For instance, the only reason we're in the predicament we are in right now is because we were ordered to rub the top 2 feet of the structures with concrete grout. The initial order was to rub the entire wall with concrete grout for aesthetic purposes. It was determined long ago and forwarded in meetings that grouting on the interior of these structures is not a good idea when you're dealing with membranes. No matter how good a job of grout you put on there, that grout is going to small off over the years. We argued that point. We had Kubota send a letter that I think is the letter you were referring to, and in that letter it says, we don't agree with this. If you're going to do anything, put a liner on the interior of that structure.
Okay. What's the spec sheet say? What does it call for?
Nothing.
It doesn't call for rubbing of the basin or anything before the
Yes,
equipment?
they all call for rubbing, but on that specific one with the membranes, it was covered, according to Ramon, it was covered months ago that specific structure would not receive a rubbing on the interior of the structure.
Just the top 2 feet?
Any of it, because it's not going to be a good idea for the process equipment.
Kevin,
The
do you want
outside,
to, Kevin or Scott, do you want to comment on that? As far as he's saying that this issue was resolved a few months prior, not to rub the hole?
The issue was never resolved, and the contractor was told, if Joe already left it, he told Ramon several times that it had to be rubbed. He did not rub it. We discussed it at the January 5th meeting, and it was still not done. And if the equipment would have not been installed and the MBR basins corrected, hydro tested, and like they were supposed to have, we would not be in this position.
And what I heard
That's
from
the
the Kubota,
contractor's
yeah,
responsibility.
okay, we're gonna go back and forth here. They say it's not gonna resolve anything. What I heard the Kubota rep said, there's shards of sharp concrete, in the membrane filters and dust. Now, if the equipment was not installed and it was rubbed prior to the equipment, that we wouldn't be having that issue.
There was no directive to rub the interior of the MBR basins prior to the units being installed.
Well, it just seems like common sense. You don't start rubbing things that creates dust and concrete.
If I could
Sure,
if I
go
could
ahead.
urge your common sense a little further, if
Sure.
there was not to be, if the better approach to this structure, because of the membranes being so sensitive to this grout, if that was the consensus, and if that was common practice for Kubota for our prior experience as well, not to rub the interior. And if that base had been covered, we would have naturally started to install membranes without doing the interior because it was predetermined that the interior would not need that grout. It stands to reason. We are not there to not do work. We are there, it says, as directed by the engineer. I can find nowhere that the engineer directed us to do anything with that top. In fact, their statement was at a December meeting, no, it was at a January meeting. Their statement was that the owner had gone, one of the owners, one of y'all, and that's fine, it's your plant, had gone and looked inside that basin, found that it was so horribly, the quality was so horrible that they wanted it fixed. They directed us to, at that point, put grout, rub grout from the top to the bottom of the structure. After the meeting adjourned, I called Scott and I said, Scott, that's not a good idea. You know that's not a good idea. The equipment is already in there. We don't need to be doing that. If anything, let's just rub the top 2 feet, and we don't even want to do that. I explained to him about a membrane being installed, and he said, yes, we've heard of that before. Am I saying anything out of line here?
Well, I don't want to get down into the weeds on this, but the bottom line here, Benny, is that the equipment got installed against our better judgment, and we expressed that clear back in October, not to install the equipment in the basins until they were tested and passed. They were not tested and passed, and consequently, the equipment got installed. We tested them, they leaked, then repair work had to be done. So the repair work is what caused the look of the interior and the exterior of those basins to look terrible. Up to that point, we had never contemplated doing the entire interior of the basins because the interior of the basins below the water line should have been pristine looking new concrete. It did not look that way. So then consequently we said, okay, we need to have something done so this aesthetically looks better.
After they were
But
installed.
it was always on the plans to rub the exterior and the interior above the water line. So had the equipment not been installed, the rubbing above the water line on the interior of the basins would have never been an issue for the membranes. Yes,
That's
why
not
would it
true.
have been?
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
Hey,
Time out.
argue about this.
The one thing, okay, what I would say is this. So if the board makes a request to you to remove the project manager from this project, would you comply with it?
I guess if there's a contractual provision for that, we would have to comply with it. I would caution the board to consider that very carefully. You have one good project manager, a very talented and intelligent project manager on that site who
I don't
has
think-
the better interest.
We're not questioning project manager's ability. We're looking at the track record over the past few months. There's been lines broken, there's been electrical damage, there's been generators, brand new generators backed into, the same line cut multiple times, and I'm surprised someone hadn't got killed out there, to be honest with you.
So the question again is, we're not asking you about a contract. We're not asking you about any of that. I'm asking you a direct question. If the board makes a request to you, I'm not asking you what the contract says. So I'm asking for you to answer this question. If the board makes a question to you, asking you to remove the project manager from this project, would you do it? I'm not asking your opinion of that project manager.
I would prefer not to. I would think there are other ways. None of the issues you mentioned are project manager related. Those are superintendent related, and we are looking to replace a superintendent out there.
Okay, so please, let me ask you this question again. If the board asks you, and I would please request that you answer this question. Please don't tell me what you prefer to do, which just a simple yes or no. If the board makes a request and asks you to remove the project manager from the project, would you remove the project manager from this project?
May I ask a question first?
Absolutely.
On what basis?
Because we don't trust the project manager or the work that has been done while he's been managing the project,
Which is the entire project.
which is the entire project.
How many supers have been out there since the project started? I know you came in, not too long
Yeah,
ago.
we came in late to the game, and
Yeah. So the supers changed.
superintendent has been one. There's been one lead superintendent since the job started.
There's been more than one.
Okay.
Several that's supposed to have come up and hadn't showed up. There's been, I have a list of them at the office, but I don't have it with me.
Okay, I think.
But I think you asked your question, we answered. So I guess my question goes back to you again. If the board makes a request to you to remove the project manager, would you do it? Yes or no?
I would put a different project manager on site, which we have done. I would still value, request, and need Ramon's participation in the project to bring it home.
Could he participate off-site?
He could participate off-site with exceptions. I mean, you're asking me to give you a black and white solution to a broad-based that we could sit in a room for hours and discuss. I just want you to know that this is the first project. I've been doing this for 40 years, which is, no big deal, neither here nor there. But this is the first project I've ever been on that we don't have benefit of communication with the owner of the project. That's one of your tenets. That's one of your principles, to have good communication. And the information you have gotten, right, wrong, or indifferent, and I'm not going to comment on the quality of the information you've gotten. I do think some of it's skewed. We have a good project manager. We can do everything we can to minimize your relationship with him, to keep him at arm's distance, but it is not in the Trophy Club's best interest to remove him from the job site entirely. It is
Okay,
not.
First off, we've entrusted CP&Y, the designers, and they've been in the picture since day one. We've entrusted them as a board to be our eyes and ears out there.
Understood.
We have Joe, who's on site. We had to watch over the project. It's not, you came in midstream. There's just been too many issues of QA or miscommunication of people. And as I said, I'm very surprised that someone hasn't been injured or killed in the project. When you hit overhead lines or hit lines multiple times, it's there, but it gets hit again and again.
They cut the power
And then
out
you
there
leave
twice.
a trench open to the environment and line breaks. It's not the first thing. And it's not, a knock against Ramon or anything. It's a knock on the whole project is not being managed. And that goes back to the project manager. So, I mean, we could go on all night and give you a whole list of things, and I know you can't answer what Vice President Wilson, you have to, if we make an action or a motion of that sort, you need to go back and tell us, hey, we're going to resolve it this way or that way to our satisfaction. But
Well-
we didn't get involved in this until, we relied on CP&Y. Then we had a problem with change orders. This change orders went back and forth, and we as, a board were spending our customers' money on people to go back and forth on change orders. Since we did that, we haven't seen one change order yet come in front of us. Okay, so whether, we can go on, as I said, all night. I'll entertain a motion if someone has one.
I'll make a motion that we request that Weber Cadoc will remove the project manager from this project.
Okay, I have a motion by Vice President Wilson. Do I have a second?
Second?
Director Thomas seconds. Any discussion? I see.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Looked at 14 pages of issues. And there's
Generated by-
a ton of them.
Generated by,
It's factual information on what occurred and the miscommunications that have occurred. Just a little teeny one. You expect call for replacing rails out there with new rails. Yet your project manager told our guys he was going to put the old rails back up. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable. Just one little teeny example. It's 14 pages of those things. That's why I second it.
and I can't sit here and argue those 14 pages because I don't have those 14 pages. I do know that there's enough gray hair up there to know every story has two sides. And the only thing I've got to say is you haven't given us opportunity. And you paid them to represent you, and they do a fine job. CP&Y Wallace is a fine outfit. I'm here to tell you this job was a shambles when Pepper Lawson showed up on it. We've done a lot of work to try to further this. We've tried to put our name on the line with this project to help you bring it home, to be a good representative for and a good contractor for the Trophy Club. The only thing that we have not done is taken Ramon off the project because he's valuable to your project.
Who was the project manager when you showed up?
Ramon,
Why are you 6 months behind on schedule?
there's a lot of issues there. There's a lot of reasons.
6 months
that
behind.
we can put together a
6
timeline.
months behind.
We can put together a timeline.
Who was your project manager again?
I'm not here to be berated.
I'm not trying to
told
berate you,
one
sir.
time
I'm
who
just
our
trying
project
to
manager
explain to you
is.
why we're making the request we're making.
Okay, we're done on that. There's a motion by Vice President Wilson, a second by Director Thomas. Director Rose?
Just a little bit more discussion. Sir, you just finished saying that when you showed up on the project, it was in shambles.
Agreed.
Would you say that you are happy with the project's current state?
Absolutely not.
Okay, the board has a motion before it. What do you plan on doing to bring this project in on cost? And certainly you can't do it on time.
Well, with the motion on the table, you've just tied both my hands behind my back.
Well, I'm looking for,
And the answer to that is the job was in shambles, not just on a job location perspective. The job was in shambles from a personnel perspective, from a relationship perspective. You couldn't ask to walk into a bigger hornet's nest than we walked into on all levels. We have intermittently, not perfectly, but intermittently been able to come in and put buffers in place to allow the job to move forward. The only problem with that is we don't have the money. We didn't buy them, they bought us. We've got to come in and do the best things we can for the job, for y'all, to get this job done. And we need somebody like Ramon to help us do that. He has built more membranes than anybody sitting in this office. I mean, he's a pro at this. He's looking out for your best interest when 6 months ago he said, you don't want to put any grout on the inside of that basin. That was looking out for you. That's not trying to skirt any issues. That's trying to make sure you understand the ramifications of doing something in a membrane structure that is not good for the membranes, not good for your equipment.
You mentioned the people, the personnel. The project manager oversees all that. I've been out there a few times. I went out and looked at the house they built. The floor on it looked like someone put
I
the
agree.
concrete
That
down
was
with a
horrible.
putty knife.
That was horrible.
Now, come on.
How's it look
And
now?
it
How does
looks
look?
great now, but that's added time that has delayed the project, and they put the equipment down on the floor before they fixed it.
And
So
there's
if
a
you were
story
getting a
there.
house built
There's
and
a
you saw
story
that
there.
being done, would you say, hey, something's wrong here?
Absolutely, and we
Okay.
did, and we
And
came
you,
in and
you've
we-
inherited, so I agree with
we
that.
fixed it, but just a side note on that equipment, you have to put the equipment in before you can final finish
You
the floor.
don't rush a project, you do it
No,
right.
No, I'm saying
So
you have to put the equipment into process. You go ahead and you do all the corrections to the grades and elevations of the floor. You come in and put your equipment in, you grout it in and get everything set. And then as a last sequence of that operation, that repair operation, you come in and coat the floor so you can coat right up to the equipment.
I agree to that, but
I
the
mean,
floor,
it
you don't
was
put the
horrible.
equipment on a floor that looks like someone took a putty knife and just they didn't float it, they
And
didn't do anything, and
I-
they corrected it.
I
But
can't.
again, those are delays that instead of doing it right the first time and doing a quality job, having a QA come and buy off on it, it's just like, okay, it's there, let's keep going forward. And those are the issues. That's the one issue.
I understand.
There's lines, as I said, there's personnel issues where, as I said, I mean, the safety aspect of it, hopefully there's a good safety officer, because when you back into a generator, with a piece of equipment or take out an electrical line, I mean, that's not good stuff.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
So,
Ultimately,
anyway.
ultimately, what I would say is this: I don't know this gentleman. I've never worked with him. I mean, I trust our engineers who we hire to oversee the work. This gentleman could be as great as you say he is. I will not doubt you. Sometimes you simply need to have a different voice, a different person around. And if he's as valuable to you as you saying he is, then I'm sure you will continue to have him available while having, if the board votes to take this action, while having someone else on site, and he can liaison with them to continue to add value to the
That's
project.
not productive to you, it's not productive to us. I would rather see some sort of an amendment to allow his participation. I mean, we could ask Keevan to lead the project in favor of Paul. We got a lot done while Paul was there during Keevan's 2-week vacation. I'm sorry.
Rubbing the mic.
I'm sorry. I said, we got a lot done while Keevan was on his 2-week vacation with Paul on the job site. It's something we've got to work through, and just removing the talent from a job site in hopes that it's going to further the project is not the approach. So some sort of an amendment I could understand, and honestly, that's what we've been trying to do. We've been trying to insert somebody in there in a way that can still benefit from Ramon's experience and hopefully bring a better tone to the job site. We did that for a while when John Davenport was out there. He brought a better tone, a more professional tone to the job site. Ramon's rough. He's been over in Oman building treatment plants. He's been in different parts of the world building treatment plants on a design-build basis, which is a totally different basis than a design-bid-build. It's just a different way of operating, and he's used to operating in that world. We've been trying to work with him to get those edges sanded off, but he's still a little rough around the edges. But
Kevin, I was not trying to berate you earlier, and if that came across that way, I'm truly sorry. But I've gone out there more than one time. And by the way, I'm not the one that went down in a basin and said, "As the owner, you need to go do something." I don't know who did that. But I was out there last year, fairly early in the year, and what drew me out there was a conversation with Carl. And not Kevin, but Carl, our manager out there on the spot. Ramon was told not to dig a trench in a particular area. Matter of fact, the backhoe operator himself was also told not to dig the ditch in that area because there was a electrical line in the ground. They did it anyway, and guess what? They cut the line, and guess what? Knocked the whole plant down. And both men were told by that guy not to do it. And that's the kind of stuff that's the 14 pages I'm telling you about, and that's why I can't handle this anymore.
We as a board have to protect our customers' interest and look for something that has a lifespan that it's supposed to be at. And right now, I lost all, confidence in that we're going to get a quality item. When you have to go back and pour foundations for lifts or hoists, when they're told they're bad and the person says, no, they're good, then they find out they're not good.
They're not
as
set
far
right.
as the control points.
Since I've been out there.
How long have you been out there, by the way?
Well, I'm not out there permanently.
How long have you been on
Let's
the job?
say since June. We
Okay.
piddled until at March when we knew we were going to be bought, but we couldn't really dig our heels
Right.
in. And then I think June,
Okay.
we got out there. And I'm not going to argue with you that it just
You
it
pick
blew my mind that every bit of concrete we poured out there, we tore it down and poured it again.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's like-
exactly
that's
that.
the things I'm talking about.
I
That's
know.
what we're talking about. And
Okay.
it's because you're rushing it. Or excuse me, your project manager is rushing it. And we can't live with that anymore. That's what we're trying to tell you.
Maybe it's personnel or something, but again, the buck stops at the project manager. And there's a motion on the table by Vice President Wilson, a second by Director Thomas, and if there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. Show of hands, all in favor? That's unanimous. So I think that's a clear signal to you. There's no opposed. So
What is
we
that?
respectfully request that you look at our motion.
Okay, will that come to us in some written form, or what?
We can have that done.
And, okay, so we'll have some time to react to it.
Yeah, so Paul, do you want to take that task on? Thank you very much. Okay,
I thank you, appreciate you coming to our
yeah,
meeting.
and I
Really
understand.
do appreciate your
Yeah.
coming.
All right, well,
Hopefully, we can come to a good solution on this. And
Laurie,
get
how,
it-
how quickly can we get that motion to him?
Paul's doing it.
Paul's doing
Yeah,
it. Okay.
I asked Paul to do it, sorry. Okay,